Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to have Dennis Underwood on the show today. Dennis has an incredible background. Let me just kind of introduce Dennis a little bit. He's the CEO, and he's going to correct me, by the way, of all the things I'm wrong about. But Dennis is
Nice.
the CEO and the founder of Cyber Crucible. Dennis has an incredible background, so check him out on LinkedIn. But he's worked for the Department of Defense on several large-scale government security projects. He has been involved in much of that industry throughout his career, that he actually did some amazing things in his younger days as well. He joined the Army National Guard, got into lots of scuffles with insurgents, and then found out that being a communications specialist might be a better suit for you to do that. I think you're a dog person by what you were saying on some of your comments. So I think you're a dog person, but has had just an incredible career, has built a great company in a cool space. And as far as I know, is now a master at Sharia contract law in an era where everyone's shouting louder. Cyber Crucible has built a successful cybersecurity company by doing the opposite, focusing on substance over spectacles. Dennis, you've stated that traditional marketing is like trying to fight cyber attacks by installing McAfee 1998 on floppy disks. What did you mean by that principle? Why are we going about this the wrong way?
I was in operations with the military, right? Cyber operations. I was also in cyber defense.
Okay.
One of the first things that I learned was that I needed to check my ego at the door when I walk in. That every time I would spend a lot of money or time or energy to come up with some kind of new capability, your brave new idea. If I had I want to put charcoal in soap, and I'm like, this is going to be an awesome idea. And then I get all the work done, and then I go to Walmart, Target, or Chinese, any chain. And then I end up seeing a whole bunch of charcoal soap on the market already. And I'm like, man, they have it packaged and sold and on sale. Whenever we're doing new things, it was always a matter of you think you're first, but you don't really have a way necessarily to find out whether you're first or not. And then I guess that's where the soap analogy breaks down, right? And then we do something, and I'd say not only did someone else think of this first, but they've already automated and they've already had a whole functioning criminal ecosystem around this new thing. And I'm just getting started, and so that's been a lot of my career, almost like a pace of $1 million if they succeed. They're going to be highly motivated to figure it out, and that's kind of our world.
Yeah. So, but you obviously found a niche with Cyber Crucible. There was something missing in the market. So what was missing that you felt that wasn't on the shelf that you wanted to go put on the shelf?
Yeah, McAfee and those antiviruses back in the days. But of course, everyone in my field at this point is walking on the shoulders of giants, from people that figured all this stuff out in the 80s and the 90s. And now here we are 20 years later, not to show my age, but what ended up happening was, I said, what, the EDR and XDR market, sometimes I joke that it's like the triple XDR, eventually they'll have a new marketing term. And it's all built on playing catch up. That works as long as the hacker is stable enough for you to produce that vaccine to deploy. And entire industries are built on this. CrowdStrike's Billions, SentinelOne, all even McAfee has stuff, right? They evolved over time. What happened was that I was monitoring some of these hacker networks, which sounds a lot cooler than it really is. I think half the time they talk about their video games. Well, then they were having a revenue problem, like an actual revenue delivery problem, where they were so successful that supply was outstripping demand for stolen data. And also it's a race to the bottom, because I think there's a limited number of people that would buy a stolen database. It's not like you can just go out in the world and do that. And I realized that we are quickly entering a phase, and are probably already there from my career, where prevention needs to return. We don't know how to do that yet, but it needs to return, because the hackers themselves are having the market collapse just from all the stolen data. And so I realized, there needed to be a change, but the market had to be ready. I first produced a product that would basically be the messenger and just say, look at all this stuff you just lost. Nobody liked that. No one liked the messenger then. And I said, I need the good guy here. And I need to do it in a way for something public, and the customer can't deny being a victim. And when I saw the hackers start talking about ransomware, taking down the system as a way to get their money, I said, you know what? this is the emperor no clothes moment that everyone's been dreading in the vendor community of cybersecurity. They've been quietly hiding all their failures, and it's game time. There is a massive market shift about to happen. I don't know how to capture it yet, but whenever there's a market shift, there's a market. And so that's actually how it all happened. But basically, a massive, massive market shift in the hackers take advantage of their successes. And I realized that that's a massive opportunity for anyone else. Sure, the EDRs they're the incumbents, right? They're going to fight tooth and nail to keep you driving that horse and buggy, but things are changing and it's coming quick.
That reminded me, I had a friend, it was like 20 years ago, but he would literally just pick up stuff from Radio Shack and he'd have a meeting with the client. He would go sit in his van and try to capture as many packets as he could just sitting in the parking lot. Then he would go in and have a meeting and say, hey, these are all the packets I just caught, and this is all the information I have, person's salary and this person's stuff. It was about 50-50. He would either get thrown out of the meeting or they would basically sign up on the spot. It depends on who you had in the room. It was either going to get super embarrassed by that or going to love it. Yeah. So I kind of understand what you're saying. So who do you sell to then?
With the traditional buyer is always, the security team or the IT team. Maybe they cross paths, or there's no security team. The IT guy wears 7 hats and one of them is security. That happens too, right? Every now and then the industry is mature enough, and unfortunately there's not really a good way in our industry to tell snake oil marketing from substance. Sometimes the need for the product comes from the business units, which is really interesting. Yeah. Cybersecurity, like everything else, does have folks who are in a groupthink, and there's folks that say, you know what, this can't be good. And I've seen that before where the CFO thinks things are great and the security guy or girl, woman is like, hey, like, you need to buy this, right? This is better. Off the side, there's sometimes where the CFO or the COO is saying, this is a massive problem in our company. And the IT person is saying, no, everything's great. I read the marketing reports and this is just how things are. You go down and you pay a ransom and you come back in a month or a week. And the CFO is just like, look, I'm in the red for the next 18 months. What's good to you is not good for the business, right? And so it's interesting to see how sometimes the biggest advocate is the least technical person who sees the business numbers and is like, from a profitability standpoint, you are higher than fire. You are higher than OSHA coming and visiting us. You're higher than anything right now. How do we get that down? So yeah, it's interesting.
And is that in one, like, do you sell to multiple different industries or do you focus on certain industries you sell to?
We find a lot of luck with manufacturing and with retail finance.
Okay.
Actually, not as much like Wall Street trading platform that is all in one room, in New York. It seems like the needs are aligned. Traditionally, there are places who just couldn't afford to have a huge stack of bodies to actually work. Manufacturing, of course, people normally didn't say, I really want to make a whole bunch of money in cybersecurity. I'm going to sell to manufacturers. They didn't have the margins, and a lot of times those are very difficult environments to thrive in.
Sure.
The CFO gets to call you out because they have down to the penny how much everything costs. In that industry, retail banking, same thing. They have a very distributed workforce, retail banks, ATMs all over the place. They weren't all in one room. They might have people in headquarters with a whole bunch of regulatory monitoring and everything, but they don't have people at all the branches, especially not at their multi-state organizations. Whether it was an oil rig offshore in the middle of the desert, or whether it's a warehouse, somewhere else, a city away. It seems like retail branches and manufacturers all had the same problem. They needed automated cybersecurity when there's no ability to get people, and it's not sustainable. And they liked the fact that even if networking was cut off, even if, they're 100 miles away, our product will protect them. You don't have to have someone in Milwaukee. They can sit nice, where they are and just remotely take care of things.
Yeah. Your product's a little bit unique, right? It actually sits locally in the server room, and you've claimed 100% client success of stopping cyber attacks. Is that correct?
I always say knock on wood. I almost feel like I need to have what are some of the old European things, like a little bit of salt to throw over my shoulder. It's almost like the 99.9 will one day be more believable, but for now.
Take advantage of it. Exactly, take advantage of it while you can. Yeah, that's a unique approach. Based on that, what you're focusing on, how you're positioned, how do you market and sell that might be different than some of the other companies in your space?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried a couple of different things, right? And so it's definitely been a trial by fire over the years. As
Yeah.
you know, we first started developing this end of 2019, I moved the company to Pittsburgh and started building new product. I did try the Google ad approach and Facebook ads and stuff. Facebook full of people that I felt so bad, but full of people who would contact me after they got ransomed, right? None of them had money and the horse died and their wife left them. It just wasn't a good sales
Yeah.
environment. But Google ads and LinkedIn ads, it was definitely a spending game.
Sure.
And the incumbents were able to spend a lot more per click than I was. At one
Mhm.
point, I was up to $1,000 a click. And you can't really do much with that when you're a bootstrapped company that has to make ends meet. So I ended up trying webinars and thought leadership and adding value in every conversation, right? And that seemed to work. You know, not all of them were buyers right away. I think some of them will probably never be buyers, the late adopters, right? Who when I'm IBM, then they'll buy, right?
Yeah.
But it did a good job of not having the door slammed in my face. When I was in college, I tried Kirby sweepers for about 2 months. Made money. That's a hard job.
It's a
Decided
slog.
to focus on my next final to make sure I got a good grade, right?
That's
Stuff
why
like that.
you joined the National Guard to get away from Kirby. Is that what you did?
Well, what's interesting, the Army, there is an artillery unit
Yeah.
that is in between Carnegie, or it's gone now, I think, but it was in between Carnegie Mellon, Pitt, and Duquesne.
Oh,
And so at all these college kids, and when you're 18 and you're like a computer engineer or a computer scientist, whatever, you're like, hey, I get to shoot these like really big artillery pieces and play soldier on the weekend. That's a really good gig, and
yeah.
they'll pay me a little bit of money. Then when the guy showed up and he was like, your unit has a lot of history and they laid out like Civil War battles. We won one, World War II, Battle of the Bulge. And I was like, we are all 25. Like all those people are long gone, and he was like, your unit has so much military background and history. He was like, we're going to send you in the first wave of relief for Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just did not work out in my favor. Like we all thought it would just play around on the weekends and it
Yeah.
got real serious real quick.
That
That's
was
how that happened.
that was fast after you signed up, wasn't it?
I signed up in 98, so it would have been a few years. I was an
Yeah.
E5 and
Okay.
became an
OIF,
E6.
OEF were like 2003.
We activated in 2003. There weren't
Okay.
any numbers yet or anything. I was in a lot better shape then. Well, less gray hair.
All were.
I find myself fist fighting people that probably in a different universe, they also would not want to be there.
Right.
That was wild.
You got some sales chops, what you
And
earned.
to get some
Right.
sales jobs and learn how to grind. That's part of Cyber Crucible. I realized the product and the messaging had to be very aligned on what someone would buy in the short term.
Yep.
There wasn't time for some like druckerism, educate the market, 5 years from now, I'll make my first sale kind of thing.
Yeah.
All the investors were saying react, react, react. And I was saying, no, we need to be preventative, not reactive. So I was zigging and the rest of the community was zagging. But now it's turning in my favor. We have established clients, established marketing, and a really great product with great patents.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you go into market, right? You're dealing with a group of people that their whole job is to identify BS in a nanosecond, right? So you're trying to
Yeah.
position this new approach. It's preventative, right? It's different than what you get your zigging instead of zagging. So how are you getting them to buy in to like, hey, this is the new way that we're going to go fight these attacks?
Yeah, I do a proof of concept. On our website, we have a lot of bake-off demos showing how the hackers actually are bypassing. It's very much a tactical education process. Some people hang up. They say, yeah, I called BS and they hang up. And I'm like, well, I had the facts. They don't want the facts. They just want to move on, and so I did try some of the marketing agencies. They are steeped in the way things are, not the way things could be. So very defensive.
Yep.
So I learned that was bad, wasn't a good fit. And I also learned that if the customer was too small or not savvy enough technically, they didn't have the ability to assess due diligence themselves. Like if it's a mechanic shop and the best sales pitch wins, well, because I'm an OEM that is aligned on substance over flash, I'm not going to be able to say some of the things that the flash guys say. The Wizard of Oz, jazz hands, whatever you want to call it. I would lose those sales. And I say, let's leave the very non-technical small businesses alone a little bit. There's an IT person, great, but they're just looking for the most bikini car washes and fireworks.
Yeah.
That is not going to win my sale. And so I end up going more with mid-sized companies, larger if I can get them, without waiting 3 years for that sale to finish. And that's worked out well for us and giving them the education to make their own decision.
Mhm.
That kind of informed our corporate culture. I realized a lot of the product and the ethos in the company was about customer empowerment.
Yep.
And not trying to shove something down their throat, but to put them in charge. And that's really shaped a lot of our product design over the years.
Yeah, I could tell. In addition to your sales chops that you earned, joking aside, you're actually a very gifted writer. It was fun to read your long form posts on LinkedIn. They were funny, informative. Obviously, you've got a skill in that area too. Do you do a lot of the content creation or copy creation at Cyber Crucible as well?
I've had some challenges with my voice. One of the things about
Mhm.
AI is getting better. I think enough of our customers and partners are, whether on purpose or not, feeding the AI engines, the models, that I'm starting to see more Cyber Crucible like accuracy. And whenever I see Chat GPT or, any
Oh,
of those,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, in the beginning, it was absolutely not. I'd say Cyber Crucible and it would spit out like, oh, backups are the way. And I'm like, no, that's not true. And also, that's
Yeah.
not my sales. It's gotten better now. My voice has remained my voice. I do use some external resources for our corporate face because, quite honestly, my tone is not appropriate for the corporate face. What the CEO says isn't
Sure.
always the same tone. They need to make sure it appealed to a broader audience. I felt that my job, mostly as education and thought leadership, was to bring people along who were looking to assess something new.
Yeah.
The corporate language was more about here's what we do from a higher level to appreciate the business value. So I kind of split things up a little bit as I write.
Yeah. With the audience and the seriousness of what you're trying to solve. Have you ever seen some of your competition screw up on the marketing side? Have they done something that was really bad for the industry or bad for them?
Well, one of the motivators when I was forming my thesis on Cyber Crucible was that with EDR, before EDR, it was heuristics and behavioral analysis. The vendors would try to do everything on their own. And, and you saw many times they take responsibility if they miss something, right? And everyone missed something, right? That's just the way eventually, right? No one, just like us, we're 100%. It's not gonna be forever, but I'm gonna keep on. It's been a couple years now, which is shocking,
Yeah.
with more paranoia, right? About, okay, it's coming, it has to come, but like in terms of the competitors, I saw a lot of almost like violent abusive behavior where I actually took some of the victim blaming. And then those my first uses of AI. And I said, hey, print up some of the pointers on victim blaming of what would be abusive or whatever. Cause it just felt like I was reading a book and it mentioned something about the psychology of victim blaming and taking ownership. And then I realized that I could align point for point the bullets
Yeah.
for victim blaming to what the vendors were doing. You don't have all the knobs turned the correct way. Oh, you don't have this. Oh, you don't have that. They are blaming the victims on every move.
Yeah. It's like very critical parent type psychology.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I
Very
actually did
nurturing, is it? You got to kind of like, hey, I got you. We
no,
got this.
yeah,
We'll figure this out.
and that's why I realized that part of our product needed to allow the customer to make their own decisions about, how and where they deploy. Do they
Yeah.
need to install anything else first? No, they don't. They're in charge here. And the sense of empowerment bled through in the product design. I did call out some of the vendors without naming them because I don't feel like, I'm not going to afford all of 900, all the 900 CrowdStrike or Palo Alto lawyers or whatever. Like,
It's just between you and me, Dennis. No, they don't have to know.
the recording audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened was I called them out. Someone compared it to a Me Too moment when Me Too was coming around. I realized that some women talked to me about the intricacies of the Me Too movement.
Mhm.
And I realized that I'm not equipped to have these conversations. The analogy breaks down in a very serious way. So I stopped doing that because I was like, I'm not equipped for these people who are taking my analogy and kind of like drawing it into places where it's no longer an awesome fit. It always stuck with me. The culture of accountability, that culture of customer empowerment, it has always kind of stuck with me.
Yeah. So brand building, you've had some success. You're growing. You're using Google ads still today, I'm assuming.
No, actually, I haven't. I stopped using that. I couldn't do it effectively. I was getting outspent. And I found more success with demo videos and a little bit edgy content,
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch some of those old John McAfee videos, he was like the shock jock of the early days of marketing. I mean, he would do some crazy stuff, but it's kind of funny to think about now, the industry that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these videos you post and share, try to help spread those around. That's how a lot of people find out about your brand.
I actually need to take a lot of those LinkedIn posts and put them into a Medium or something like that now. 'Cause they're, they're there, they get their likes, they get attention, people refer them. Sometimes like 3 months later, they're like, oh yeah, I saw this. And I'm like, how,
Yeah.
but then, or the kind of the holy grail of marketing, if there is one, where it's like, hey, I've heard about you, but I can't remember where. Okay? And I'm like, I know where. So that's always good when someone you've never met. I got to put a Medium.
Have you thought about, because your writing's really good, doing more video, not necessarily podcasts, but it's like, hey, this is, Fridays with Dennis. Let me just tell you some stories. I mean,
That's a really good idea.
I mean, you're natural at it. I just didn't know if you'd ever thought about doing something like that.
Yeah. I always tell the wife this is the moneymaker, and she kind of laughs and walks away. So my daughter rolls her eyes, my son probably like files it away in his memory, right? So that he can use it with kids,
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about that, but that's probably something I should do. What a post would it be? I do watch people like Chase Cunningham, Dr. Cunningham, and he has this big following and does these videos and very good at what he does, right? And I never really thought that could be me, not Chase, but I could do my own flavor of the Colbert Show or whatever,
I mean, it's kind of endless what you could potentially do with the whole genre that you're in, right? You could go all sorts of layers with this, really the Black Ops side of it, the White Knight side of it. I can just imagine some of the visuals behind that would be really fun to talk about and what's going on. I mean, cybersecurity is a bit of a fraternity where there's a lot of lingo, there's a lot of language that's unique just to that. And even people in IT, there's still a gap between what IT folks do and what cybersecurity folks do. It's different than rolling out patches to Microsoft Office versus locking down these ports because of this risk. And it's very different, right? Very different. That would be something fun to even have you cover, like the hacking conferences. There's countless things you could do to get some of your name recognition out in front of some of these folks.
That's good. Every now and then I notice people get scared, or they think, oh, he's releasing classified information. And I'm like, no, here's some code on the open source repository. This isn't, maybe one day this was super, but this is like Tuesday for the hackers. This is no longer, but it's just so far ahead of the common consciousness. I remember once I was brought in for an operation and they were like, this is like some super duper 0-day thing. And I looked and I was like, this code is like 7 years old. It was actually people complaining it's old. And I was like, we just happen to find it now.
Have you ever seen those videos where, someone from special forces would like review a movie about special forces and you go, nah, that's not legit. Or actually that is pretty close or something like that. You could be the voice analyzing movies when they talk about hacking or security breaches, like in Independence Day, where they uploaded a virus into the spaceship with a USB drive.
And, I'm always thankful that the hackers have USB. We can blame them for the real crime. You can never get the USB stick in the right way the first time.
Is that the reason? I don't even know that.
It must be the aliens. We can blame them. I think bad for that engineer. It probably made perfect sense for him. And now he gets smacked in the back of the head. Every time he announces he's the guy who did it.
Do you have a sales force?
I outsource as much as I can. Good. I have a good partner network. We're wrapping up a international recruitment drive, believe it or not, to penetrate the EMEA market. And that's gone really well. We're picking from around 100 partners and we're picking the top 20 that is not a metrics by size or anything like that. We're picking the top 20 to be the best fit, for our special founders council for that region. I've learned that the eat what you kill type salespeople work out well for an automated product. The relationship type salespeople who, I always call it the MBA ticket sales process. It's just hard because the software is like $75 a desktop, right? Good margin, highly automated, easy to deploy, easy to get out there, right? Not a lot of chance for the whole broken software upsell where you're selling a car and then you can sell the warranty, the car wax upgrade and everything else. So the salespeople who wanted to get a big salary waiting on buying box seats and stuff like that, just, they'd spend $60K to get a $50K sale, So I was like, man, I can't do that. But the eat what you kill guys and women, I was watching one of my family friends have a meeting and she worked for a plumbing parts distributor. There were big sales, all kinds of plumbing things, valves. It was very much like everyone was busy on both sides and bought the new product, and then they made the sale and then she moved on to the next one. Right. And they were all busy, distributors, plumbers, whatever. And I was like, that is pretty much what our software sale process is. It's just a very much like a quick process. And I was like, I need to cut out all the other stuff, be a trustworthy resource.
Yeah.
But they don't need to have 7 bottles of Dom Perignon for the office every week. I can't afford it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how the sales force formed over time.
That's great. Yeah. So you created something that can be quite scalable instead of slow ramp ups and onboarding and training and everything else. Great. Okay. Lightning round to wrap this up. What is the worst marketing advice that you ever got from anyone?
Oh, wow. The worst was that I got from a marketing analyst. It said there's no room for new products and that I should go be a reseller. I thought, you're 30, you've had time to see the market shift by now. I can't believe someone is saying this. That was the worst.
That's crazy. That this is anecdotal and I never validated. It's maybe one of these urban myths, but I heard that there was a 1950s Chevrolet manual that said, don't throw this manual away because all the innovations that have been, designed for a car that we've built them all. So this manual is going to work basically for like the rest of your life.
That's awesome.
And again, that could have been a lie, but it's certainly stuck in my memory. And it sounds like that person read that manual and probably still drives it. Okay. Next one is what's one piece of marketing tech that you can't live without?
Oh, wow. Nowadays, as far as the tech, it is my LinkedIn automation. If you could actually get it to be a very micro-segmented, very targeted message that adds value to a very small number of people, it has saved me from so many typos or getting people's names wrong. Before that, I used copy paste actually to say, okay, here's the 10 people I want to send this to. Like I copy.
We all did. Yeah. Don't worry, we all did that. Yeah. You're not alone. Yeah. What is the tool? What's the name of it?
You know what? I was using a tool called Dripify.
Yeah.
Dripify.io. I'm sure it was abused by low quality marketers. And so people were like, oh, that tool. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you got to really use it the right way. Now I'm using one called HeyReach. Next year will probably be a different one. Like any product and company, they get stagnant and then new one comes along.
Oh, there's an avalanche of them right now. Right. So I'm playing around with Duck Soup and Expandy right now for LinkedIn automation.
I've heard of Duck Soup. That's one of the OG ones. Yeah.
So I've been messing around with those just to compare and contrast. It's a lot of value in that. Okay. What's the best marketing advice you ever received?
The best is the reason why they are fighting. The best marketing advice I ever got was that the reason why everyone is fighting you so hard to keep your name out of there is because they know when you break out of that, they can't stop you, and that for me was great because then, then you would pair that with, you'd watch and say, well, if they don't care, then you're not a threat to them. If they're not attacking you, then you're not a threat. That was good to see that basically there's so much profit after you break through that they won't be able to stop you. You just bust through the wall.
What's marketing look like in 5 years from now?
Oh, wow. You know what? I've been reading and thinking a lot about the AI stuff because there's so many changes coming. I think we entered, just like with EDR, we left a place where we had to be very careful about our sourcing. And we left that place, where Britannica kind of was like, and I hope they're around for this, that was like, well, you got it from Britannica, not from like, your uncle who talks about bees and stuff. I don't know, and so, but you could go to an authority, and Wikipedia did a good job of policing that for a lot of years. Now we're in an era where I see where, AI and marketing, it's seeding distrust that's going to kind of hang around for a long time, I think. I even have a hard time getting copywriters because they're all using AI and I'm getting bad information. I spend more time fixing their stuff than I'm actually doing my own, right? I think we're going to have to eventually return to a spot where the higher quality marketers, the ones in markets and messaging, are going to be around who has authority over this message, who's done the fact checking, who's done, the higher quality to differentiate from all this slop out there. And I think the pendulum will swing back to who's the trusted authority on this, almost like the 1960s storyboard type advertisements, right? They were the trusted authority in the magazine. I think it's going to come back to that. It has to. No one's going to be able to tell it from down. A good housekeeping seal, I think things like that are going to carry a ton of weight where they kind of lost it for a little bit.
Yeah. Gotcha. All right. What do you want the people to know about or your company right now?
Oh, wow. In a world where companies are spending millions of dollars trying to come up with something that people will buy in cybersecurity to possibly solve the existing problem with a little bit of differentiation, we haven't had to do that because we've been very disciplined on providing value to our customers in a manner that is an undeniable solution they cannot deny they need. And that's very strong. That's very powerful. The product was misaligned, or if I wasn't doing right by the customers and dealing with integrity, then that wouldn't happen. And so, that's a point of pride. And especially in an industry which is kind of built off of like kind of criminalish behavior, roguish behavior, we'll say. And I really want them to know that there is someone out there looking out for them, not for the private equity billionaire, and that we are succeeding and we're winning deals sometimes based off the integrity we demonstrate. Not even the tech is great. They probably wouldn't give me the money otherwise, but they later on disclose like you have our back. And that's something that means that all this hard work is paying off. So you can be in control of your data. It's not fatalistic. And we're here. We've cracked it on a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of things. And we're here for the customer.
Go to www.cybercrucible.com for more information about this. And if you want a Dave Barry-esque high sense of humor about a serious topic, follow Dennis on LinkedIn. Also watch for his updates on new Sharia contract law that I'm sure he's going to be sharing with the world, because I didn't know it existed until today. So thank you, Dennis, and best of luck to you and your company.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Josh.